2019 was a decent year for video games. Some were good, others were eh. So why not list off the games that I've played during that year? Keep in mind that I'm only listing games that I've played, good and bad. And just so you know, this is my own personal opinion, and this isn't in any order. So with that, here are the games of 2019. Devil May Cry 5. This is one of the best games I have ever played since 4. This makes the reboot hard to go back. The game has some extremely fluent gameplay, awesome story, beautiful graphics, and the new character V is super badass. If you want to know my overall thoughts on the game, check out my review. Rage 2. Rage 1 was a decent open world game. It reminds me so much of the Fallout games. Wasn't my all-time favorite, but it has its merits. When I saw ads for Rage 2, part of me was looking forward to see what it has to offer. In short, it's okay. Worst game ever? No. Best game ever? No. It's just an okay game. I do like the shooting and the weapons, the graphics are nice to look at, but the story is just too boring. And if you happen to play this on the original PS4 model, you won't get the 60 FPS as you would with the PS4 Pro. Kinda sad, but that's the way it has to be. As I said, I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. Anthem. Easily one of the worst games of 2019. This game was so hyped at E3, it was going to be promising. When it finally came out, it was nothing but a waste of potential. This makes Destiny look like the best shooter ever. I happen to like Destiny. We all know why this is one of the worst. And you know what's really sad? This game came out in February, and not even a year later, the game's price dropped drastically. Go with Destiny if you can help it. Blacksad. Without a doubt, one of the most unique games I have ever played. One of the viewers of Twitch recommended the game, and I was gifted the game as soon as I was told about it. Thank you, Kahea. Like I said on my first thoughts video, it's a mix of my favorite game of all time and LA Noire. If you love games that focus on the narrative, give it a fair try. Days Gone. Another game that was hyped at E3. This was something I was definitely looking forward to. When I finally got a chance to play it, it was good. It wasn't super amazing, but it was fun regardless. It almost reminds me of The Last of Us and Horizon Zero Dawn. The Last of Us with a zombie apocalypse, and Horizon Zero Dawn with the open world environment. I'm not a big fan of the writing though, but in the end, Days Gone is something that should not be overlooked. Death Stranding. I'll admit, it's not for everyone. Despite that, I actually had a lot of fun with this one. Kojima still has his roots of making a superb video game with rich storytelling. Norman Reedus was really phenomenal in this game. The whole world is massive and filled with dangers that keep you on edge. This will always be one of my favorite Kojima games that isn't Metal Gear Solid. Totally accurate battle simulator. Technically, it's still on its early access, but this game was pure fun. This is a ragdoll strategy game that's filled with comical outcomes. With certain features added in, you'll be having a grand old time. The game never gets old. At least that's how I feel. Like I said, it's on early access, but please get the game and have a blast. Dark Pictures Man of Medan. I mentioned this before, and I'll mention this once again. I love Until Dawn from Supermassive Games. It had a heavy focus on the story, which I love. Sure, there are a bunch of jump scares, but that doesn't stray away from telling a compelling tale. Hidden Agenda wasn't awful, but it was different. So when I heard about Man of Medan, I figured I might as well try it and see what the development team had in store. I hate to say it, but I was super let down by this title. The story was meh, the writing was questionable, and the replay value felt non-existent. They added co-op, but I didn't feel compelled to see what it does. Once I was done, I didn't feel like going back. Metro Exodus. As a fan of story-rich games, I was really drawn to the first two storyline. They defined post-apocalypse in a very captivating way, despite being based on the novels. So it's no secret that I would try Metro Exodus. I'm not going to go over details over the Epic Games exclusive deal. Instead, I'll be covering the game as a whole. This game is much better than Last Light. The story is just as interesting as ever, the world is way more open, and the game barely holds your hand. If you love the first two, Exodus will not disappoint. Medieval Remake. I never grew up with the PS1. I only got around to playing the PS1 games way after its lifespan. One of the games I was interested in trying was Medieval. Of course, the game is super hard to find with prices just skyrocket up the wazoo. The only way I could play that game is by playing the second remake for the PS4. I'm glad I did that because this game is a blast. Having a retro style game is something I can truly play. Reminds me so much of childhood. The game is challenging, but that's totally fine by me. Who wants to breeze through a game that's way too easy? If you're having a hard time finding the original PS1 game, get the PS4 version. You'll save a lot of money that way. Apex Legends. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but Titanfall is one of my favorite shooter series of all time, with the second game being my absolute favorite. After being bummed about Titanfall 3 not being made, I figure I might as well try Apex Legends. Like Rage 2, it's okay. It's a battle royale game that's set in the Titanfall universe. I like the similar gameplay style to its predecessor, but I'm not too crazy over the genre. It's either random people just don't help you, getting tracked down super fast without any reflexes, or dealing with salty, toxic players. The toxic players are not the problem. It's just that the genre isn't interesting to me. A Plague Tale: Innocence. Story-rich at its finest. The game very much reminds me of The Last of Us, full of emotional tones and tons of horror-related elements. Lots of physics puzzles and a bunch of stealth makes it worthy of a playthrough. What I like most of all is the heavy focus on the bond between brother and sister. Do not overlook at this wonderful gem. Dauntless. Never in my whole life of playing games would I ever say that I had a lot of fun with a Monster Hunter clone. Dauntless has fun written all over it. Satisfying fights and extremely customizable. Even if you aren't familiar with Monster Hunter, you'll have a great time fighting a bunch of giant monsters. And the best part yet, it's free to play. Layers of Fear 2. Layers of Fear 1 is one of my favorite walking simulator horror games, despite the random jump scares. So it's no secret that I'll try out Layers of Fear 2. From a story standpoint, this has no connection to part 1. Sadly, it's also the weakest part of the entire game. The jump scares are back and just as annoying as ever. I do have a few things that are pretty noteworthy. Tony Todd, the actor from Candyman and Final Destination, makes this game extremely trippy. The puzzles are super challenging and the music is nice to listen to. Otherwise, it's alright. Not perfect, and definitely not as good as part 1. Twitch Sings. Most of you should at least know that I stream on Twitch, but did you know that they made a karaoke game? Twitch Sings is addicting. It puts any other singing games to shame. Super customizable to your avatar, and the fact that they update with brand new songs every so often makes it worthy of the playthrough. And if you like, you can actually upload your singing to Twitch. That's cool. Hunt Showdown. Should have been in the 2018 list, but this game was fully released in 2019. Originally on early access, this is a horror shooter where everyone is your enemy. Monsters and other players. That is, unless you have friends to play with. To be very clear, I only got a chance to try it when it was free for one weekend. I'm concerned that this game was trying to be Battle Royale because no matter what, people will hunt you down. It's kind of hard to get used to this particular style. Wolfenstein Youngblood. Once again, one of the worst games of 2019. And no, I have not played Left Alive. The game has an RPG element, which doesn't fit. The story is unappealing, and the AI on both sides are awful. Yes, they had multiplayer, but I didn't have anybody to play with. The game just bored me so much that I wish I would never laid eyes on it. If anything, I would just stick with the previous games. Those are the games of 2019. Thank you so much for watching. Here's to 2020.